Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Yee-Haw, a Bonanza podcast. I'm your host, Melissa, and today we are watching Season 1, Episode 17, The Outcast. I am extremely pumped up about this episode today because one of my most favorite actors is guest starring this week. And you might know this guy's name. His name is Jack Lord. So I'm very excited if you couldn't already tell. So let's read the episode details and get right on into it. Happy March, by the way. It's Monday, March 3rd at the time I am recording this. Apparently February had some place to be because that was the biggest blur of my lifetime. But we're in March now. So happy March. Hope you guys are having a good first 3 months of the year so far. It's only going to go by faster. So let's get into today's Bonanza episode because I am so excited. This episode, The Outcast, it was written by Thomas Thompson, David Dortor, and Fred Hamilton. It was directed by Lewis Allen. It premiered January 9th, 1960. Its special guests were Jack Lord, Susan Oliver. Those are like the official guest stars of this week. And then we also have Edward Platt, Irene Tedrow, Robert P. Lieb, Roy Engel, Joe Ashley, and Mark Allen. Did I write Alien? I think it's Mark Allen, but I think I wrote Mark Alien. The episode description is: the Cartwrights come to the aid of Leta Malvet, who was ostracized by the community after her father and brother are hanged by a lynch mob. It's no coincidence when Leta's bad boy, Clay Renton, comes back into town. Okay, I'm dying to get into today's episode, but if you haven't already followed me on social media, guys, you can follow this podcast at Yee-Haw Bonanza Pod on both TikTok and Instagram. Or if you want to email me with any thoughts about these episodes, these Bonanza episodes, what your take is on these episodes, you can email me at yeehawbonanzapod@gmail.com. If you're watching this show on YouTube today, please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you are listening on your favorite podcasting streaming service, including Apple Podcasts, if you would please consider writing me a positive review on Apple Podcasts, I would truly appreciate it. You guys, I can't contain my excitement. I'm so excited right now. I'm a big Jack Lord fan, so going back to revisit this episode was truly a treat for me, and I'm a bit in my fangirl phase right now, so please excuse me, but I'm super excited right now. So a couple things about this episode. This episode marks the first time there is an episode title card that appears right after the opening credits and theme song. So, you know, when they do the dun, 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 and then it shows the title of the episode, this is the first time the show did that. So we're starting to get into a rapport with the series, which is very cool. Like I said, our notable guest star for this week is the amazing Jack Lord. He is most famous for his role as Detective Steve McGarrett on Hawaii Five-0, which is so fun for me because I've been watching Hawaii Five-0 pretty religiously over the last 7-8 months on and off. It is such a great show, so entertaining. He absolutely rocks his role as Steve McGarrett on that series, and he is such an incredible actor. He's honestly one of my favorites. He was also a producer and director for Hawaii Five-0, and he was an accomplished painter. Some further fun facts on Jack Lord. I believe 2 years after his appearance here on Bonanza, he went to star on another short-lived Western TV series called Stony Brook. That was a Western television series that aired from 1962 to 1963, so it was after this appearance on Bonanza. I attended the online Bonanza convention last year, and there was a session after the convention ended where fans could just hang out and talk, and the people at the Bonanza convention were so lovely. They were asking me all these questions, like how I got into Bonanza, and I casually mentioned that I was a really big fan of Jack Lord and I loved watching him on Hawaii Five-0, and they were all like, well, you should really check out Stony Brook because if you like Westerns and you like Jack Lord, he did that series in the early 1960s. I believe that show was only one season, maybe 1 or 2 seasons, so not super long. I haven't watched it yet, but I am extremely excited about it. It's on my list. I'm a little too deep into Hawaii Five-0 right now, but I'll definitely have to go back and watch some Stony Brook after getting that recommendation. Couple other things. Jack Lord is one of the very few actors I share a birthday with, so we were both born on December 30th, so got a little bit of an affinity for that. Final fun fact on Jack Lord, he was originally considered for the part of Captain Kirk on Star Trek, the original series. According to William Shatner, I believe, Jack Lord wanted 50% ownership of Star Trek, the original series, and I think the story goes that Gene Roddenberry didn't like that, so they passed him up and then offered the role to William Shatner. So that's interesting. Jack Lord could have been the Captain Kirk that we know and love, but if he had been Captain Kirk, he wouldn't have played Steve McGarrett. So that's a fun little thing to think about. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I could make this the Jack Lord show today. I am such a fan of his work. I think he is one of the most brilliant actors I've ever watched. He just totally understands the art of nuance and expressing what is unsaid. He is genuinely one of my favorite actors, and I've had such a great time watching him on Hawaii Five-0 that it was super fun for me to go back and watch this episode because I was like, oh my gosh, like it's just so cool. Like it's his early days before he became Steve McGarrett. So big Jack Lord stan over here. Our other big guest star this week is Susan Oliver, and she plays Leta Malvet. She is ironically famous for her role on Star Trek, the original series, as the green slave girl that does the sexy dance in one of the early Star Trek season 1 episodes. I can think of the musical cue right now as I'm talking about it. She also played one of the women in the very first episode of Star Trek. I think it was Vina? Yes, let me check that. Yes, it was Vina. And that's from Star Trek's first pilot, The Cage. So she was a really familiar face to me. Let's actually pull up her IMDb. I'm not really sure what the thing was that made her famous. Oh, but she was on everything in the 1960s. It says she was on, like, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Simon and Simon, later Murder, She Wrote, Magnum P.I., Tomorrow's Child, The Love Boat, The Streets of San Francisco, Days of Our Lives. So she was on a lot of big name shows. And fun fact on her, she was a pilot and she loved flying. In 1970, she was named Pilot of the Year by the Association of Executive Pilots. Unfortunately, she died kind of young. She died at the age of 58. I can't remember what year that was. I think that was in the 90s, I believe. Yeah, it says she was born in 1932 and she died in 1990. I know her probably best as the green slave girl on Star Trek. But she's the highlight of this episode. She did a really, really good job. She and Jack Lord. Oh, another fun fact. So Pernell Roberts and Jack Lord, I don't think they share dialogue in this scene. I think that they're in the same scenes together, but they don't actually have an exchange of dialogue. But funnily enough, Jack Lord and Pernell Roberts would go on to appear in an episode of Hawaii Five-0 together. I believe it's in season 3, and it's called The Grandstand Play Parts 1 and 2. Very good episode. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it, but Pernell Roberts plays a baseball player with like a mentally challenged son. Let's see. Stand, play. So the episode description of Hawaii Five-0 is... Gary Phillips, the mentally challenged son of baseball star Lon Phillips, encounters a woman while on his way to the concession stand during a ball game. She turns up dead shortly thereafter. Was he responsible, or does he know who it was? So yeah, Pernell Roberts and Jack Lord were in that episode together of Hawaii Five-0. So if you're interested, go check it out. I'm always going to recommend Hawaii Five-0. Great show. Absolutely loving my rewatch of it right now. But yeah, and James MacArthur, who plays Danny on Hawaii Five-0, was also on Bonanza, and I believe it was a season 9. It was either a season 8 or 9 episode, so it was after Pernell Roberts left, but that's kind of funny knowing that both Jack Lord and James MacArthur were on Bonanza. As far as the box set goes, they had an episodic promo, which is always fun to watch, and they had quite a few pictures. They had a lot of pictures from the end scene of this episode, so you have Susan Oliver holding the gun, walking out of her house, Jack Lord kneeling on the ground with the gun in front of him. Some very attractive pictures of Jack Lord, if I do say so myself. Pictures of the Western town set, so you can see like a boom mic, and then you can see, I believe it's the opening shot of this episode, where you have Mike, Pernell, Dan, and Lauren getting off their horses in that Very dramatic opening. You also have some cute pictures of Susan Oliver between takes. I love those dresses on her. There's a great picture of her talking to Lorne Greene in between takes, and then a couple pose shots of her in that red dress. And there's a nice little picture of Lorne and Purnell in one of the last photos. They're both holding their guns, and Lorne has his hand on Purnell's shoulder as they're waiting for Jack Lord to come out of the little shack. And then there was a behind the scenes picture of David Dortort talking about how he named the Ponderosa and how it was originally going to be named Panamint, which is a name that was first used in 1861. Panamint was a boomtown founded after silver and copper were found there in 1872. So he was going to call it the Panamint Ranch. And then I can't remember who he mentioned in his interview. Oh, I can't remember this lady's name. I'm going to have to circle back and find her name. But David Dortort was talking about how he would handwrite his notes for Bonanza, like for these episodes. He would write it all down, and then he would hand them off to this woman, and she would type up all of David Dortort's notes. And when he was trying to come up with a name for the Ponderosa Ranch, he wanted to call it the Panamint Ranch, but he didn't like it. And she was like, well, you've talked a lot about like Ponderosa pines. She's like, well, why don't you just call it the Ponderosa Ranch? And he was like, oh, okay, well, that was pretty obvious. So she's kind of credited with naming the Ponderosa, but I'm going to have to look at her name. I didn't catch her name. So I will circle back on that and make a post on social media and give credit to that lady. I've talked your ears off, guys, about Jack Lord. I went on a bit of a Jack Lord gush. So I'm very sorry about that. So let's waste no more time. Let's get our copy of the episode up and get started. We are hitting play in 3, 2, 1, go. It's a very dramatic opening. Just throw you right into it. Interesting to kind of see that set layout, like where the jail is positioned. Oh, I hate this couple so much. Heck of a way to open the episode, just like throwing you straight into it. This woman is the equivalent of Mrs. Olsen on Little House on the Prairie. She is like the town bitch. I have a very low opinion of Spartan brand Mrs. Olsen. Tan being the only one smiling. Jack Lord! Oh my gosh. I'm not apologizing anymore. I love him. And here's our title card. Here's our favorite doctor. Virginia City, by the way, sucks. These people are awful. They ostracize Ben in an episode, ostracize that poor saloon girl as well, the wife of the guy that they killed, and now they're ostracizing her. Not a great town. Joe. Okay, Mom, is what little Joe should have said. He's like, we already had issues when we loudly announced how much money we had in the previous episode. Hello, gorgeous. This has me so giddy to see all these powerhouse actors in the same scene together. It's just so cool. It's like the crossover of like the different worlds. Man, the Ponderosa house kept changing constantly throughout the series. I don't ever think they made a final decision on whose room looked like what. Design wise, location wise. Ah, God. You know, very much like Pernell Roberts, Jack Lord is a very relaxed, easygoing actor. It's very effortless. You can tell he's so comfortable in front of the camera and very at ease. He just seems very unperturbed, which is so appealing. That's true. Adam's like, I still have things to say. Adam is such a he's very protective of the family. He's always looking out for the family's well-being. He can always sniff out somebody's BS pretty quick. I love that so much about his character. He's always concerned with protecting the family's integrity. Jack Lord just owns every scene he's in. He just has this way of making you pay attention to him. Which is it's just great acting prowess, man. It's like, I'm not the main character, but I'm gonna make you watch me. Like, you are gonna take in this performance. Side note, I think Haas was very sweet on Leta in this episode. I could be convinced that he might have been a little into her. I also think it's in Haas's nature to be very sweet, kind, caring, charismatic, really wanting the best for other people, but he, in my opinion, was very, very sweet on her. That's just like so crappy of the town to be like, your family is terrible and you're associated with sketchy people, so we just want you to leave. And it's like, she didn't do anything wrong. She's just caught in the crossfire of all this. Oh my god. I'm sorry. Oh man. Ah. Why did he have to do it like that? I am a huge fan of this jacket. This look, this very weathered cowboy look on Jack Lord, it suits him quite well. Honestly, they really carried this episode. I think they both did a great job in their respective roles. I found their characters to be very interesting. And I attribute that to their performances. That was so Steve McGarrett. Oh my gosh. The way he said that, you bet we will. That, you know how actors have isms? Like they have like these little isms like One of Michael Landon's ism is he goes, "Ah, come on." It's a classic Michael Landon delivery. That was Jack Lord's. You bet they are. And the finger pointing too. That's an interesting little premise. It's like people push us away, so fine. We're going to be the outlaws. Also, do you guys notice that the scene transitions are a lot smoother in this episode? The transitions from scene to scene are carried by music. It doesn't just like cut off in a scene. So the music won't stop abruptly. It'll keep going and it will carry you into the next moment. I don't think I've seen previous episodes do that. It feels very old Hollywood, though. I don't think I've seen that in previous episodes. God, this town, Virginia City, suffers so much from groupthink. Does anybody think for themselves? God, he is so creepy. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it now. No sadness, no sympathy for Harvey Buford. No sympathy for him whatsoever. He is a creep. Yeah, as he deserved. As you deserve. Slap him more, guys. They are Mr. and Mrs. Olsen from Little House. Except for this guy's a little bit more of a creep. Yeah, that's right. Okay, there the music stopped abruptly. But in previous scenes, it's been carrying it through. He's like, yeah, he's like, everybody shut up since Pa loudly announced how much money he was taking out of the bank in the previous episode. I would like to see that. Wink. Thanks, Mom. Adam is such a mother in this show. It's so funny the way he talks to Joe and Haw sometimes. Watch the way Purnell launches this wood in anger. He's like, I can't go to the event in town. Watch the way he launches this. So great, man. So great. Ugh, I'm having such a good time right now. Can you guys tell? God, he just has this way of making you pay attention to him. You hang on every line of dialogue he delivers. That is crazy. And he's like, yeah. Crazy. Just shot him. He's like, you're getting on my nerves. You're dead. Kind of love that though. Same girl. I'd be doing the same thing. Ah. Just staring at him. You know what's crazy though? Jack Lord's 40 here. Which is crazy because I don't think I would have guessed 40. He looks so good. I would have guessed like mid 30s, but he's 40 years old. And I think it's this 1960, so 8 years later he would play Steve McGarrett. So he was 48 when he landed that role. But he looks really, really good. And little Joe is like, oh, Clay's not much older than me. So I guess that implies that he'd be like, what, mid to late 20s in the show? I could believe it. Oh, gosh. And you do feel, see the music transition. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I've mentioned that like 6 times now. It's just such an interesting choice. You can't help but feel such compassion for both Leta and Clay. I mean, I know Clay's a bad guy, but when you have somebody like Jack Lord playing him, he's going to come off more charismatic. Oh, get out. I love Haas. I think Haas is sweet on her. Like you can tell he's fond of her. And she's very cute. She's so earnest. Like, I think she's a very likable character. A hope chest. A hope chest would be the equivalent of a Pinterest board today. I made this for my Pinterest board, which is essentially what she's saying in 2025 terms. Aw. You could take this one way. You could. It, I wonder. I wonder what would happen if they introduced like an intentional subplot of Haas being very interested in her and therefore caring more about her well-being. That would be interesting if they included that. A little bit of a different perspective on the episode, but then I guess you'd have to switch the priorities and the storyline, but I hold to it. I think Haas was sweet on her. I love that fake mountain in the background so much. I'm gonna have to see if I can find pictures of the set and like the way it actually looked because they propped up that fake stand of the mountain in the background, and it looks really hilarious from an aerial view. Hey, Mrs. Olson. I think this episode is very well paced. I feel like it is very even. It took its time, but it felt pretty even throughout. Because I don't want the drama. His facial expression there is great. Kind of crazy to just put your safe in the center of the store. It's not even in a back room. That's bold. Yes, Harvey's a bit of a sleazebag. Because we're the people of Virginia City and we're just mean whenever we run into others we don't agree with. Sorry, pouring myself a drink. And I get this was a tumultuous time. I understand that. It's just these people in Virginia City aren't creating a great track record for themselves. I love Jack Lord's hair so much. And now you're gonna die. I can't believe Jack Lord's 40 here. That's insane to me. He looks so good. And you know what? I don't feel bad for Harvey. I'm sorry, Harvey. He sucks, dude. He's so creepy. This woman, oh my gosh. And you do feel so bad for Leta. She's so sweet and earnest, and she's trying so hard to just get integrated back into this society, even for the mistakes of her family. She is. She is the Mrs. Olsen. I bet she has a daughter named Nellie, too. Sometimes that cuts deeper. Such a pathetic person. I feel sorry for you. I mean, Ben would have the most compassion for her, especially in light of, is it Vendetta? The Vendetta episode? Because the town pretty much did the same thing to him, albeit it's not the same situation, but they talk a big game and then they don't show up for Ben, so it makes sense that Ben would have a lot of compassion for Leta. Where's the sheriff in all this? Like, the Cartwrights are taking law and order into their own hands, which is what they're famous for. But, like, seriously, where's the sheriff? Bring in Roy Coffee, man. We need Roy Coffee. Hmm. Good on you, Ben. Adam is giving such mother vibes in this episode. Like, he's the mom, which makes sense that he would try to fill that role to help out his dad. I could probably write an essay on this. I have so many thoughts on Adam's character I haven't yet articulated because maybe I want to save them for later episodes, but like, I think about this all the time. Haha, I love that moment. I don't know. I think about the fact that, like, he struggles with like commitment. When he's in relationships with like girls, like he'll like run away from the relationship, such as with Laura. And then he's constantly parenting and taking on the responsibility of Haas and little Joe. I just think he's such an interesting character. Would have been interesting if we could have seen Lita's father and brother before they were killed. But then they'd have to add on some time for this episode. But I would have liked to have seen it. Yeah. Harvey definitely deserved that beating. I don't have sympathy. I'm sorry. Okay, don't pull the Cartwright card on him, sweetie. Oh no. I don't blame her, honestly. I really don't. I do like it's how how it's Ben being very nurturing and kind to her. He sees her. She's just an innocent pawn in all of this. Although I do think it's interesting that he was like, you should leave town. It's like, no, because then you tell the townspeople that they're right. But maybe that was for her own safety. Because these town people are willing to lynch people without trials. So, seems pretty lawless in Virginia City. Also, I am once again annoyed that none of the Bonanza boys got married and we got to see their families, because just like the idea of Ben Cartwright dealing with all of his daughters-in-law, it's just such, oh my gosh, the wasted opportunity. Like just seeing how gentle Ben was with her in that scene, it's like, how cute would it be to see all the daughters-in-law and like how he would deal with them and playing with his grandkids. Oh, I would go to a life of crime for Jack Lord. Uh, so charismatic, man. That bag's not going to hold much. That is true. That's also true. Clay's not wrong. That's the funny thing is, yes, is he an outlaw? Sure, but all of his points are extremely valid. Like, they would definitely probably they would probably kill Leta too, if I'm being honest. They would find reason to. God, they both did great in this episode. Nope. How many times have they said those Cartwrights? Why are the Cartwrights are the only ones with integrity in this town? They're the only people to go, "Hey guys, this is wrong. The way we're going about this." You know what's interesting is in this episode, Clay and Leta feel more like main characters than supporting characters. They don't really feel like they're in the supporting cast. The Cartwrights feel like they're in the supporting cast, which I don't mind, honestly. I think it's great because that speaks a lot to both their acting talents and then also the writing. It puts the focus on a different area, but they feel more like main characters than just being there to support the Cartwrights. Which is obviously not something that I want for every episode, but I appreciate it. Yes. And the boys will be there to reinforce it. Or maybe the story is more about Leta having to escape corruption or making her choice to escape corruption and, outlaws. Go off, Ben. No. No. Well, at least he died beautiful. uh, yes, he did. He did. Ben didn't want to do that. Poor Ben. Get away. Oh, okay, good. Well, very late. Apology, Mrs. Olson. I mean, Buford. Well, dang. That episode kind of leaves it open-ended. It's like, okay, well, it's over now. You want it to resolve a little bit more. But they were in time constraints. I get it, but I could have liked to see that episode go on a little bit longer. I think I would have enjoyed it had they made it more like come more full circle. It's just I want these townspeople, man, to get their comeuppance. They are just not nice people. And I like have Ben Cartwright like give a little speech about how dare you ostracize this child. Like she's been trying to break free of her family's outlaw background for so long, and you torment her for mistakes that she didn't even make. I don't know. It just would have been nice to have like one of those Cartwright speeches at the end where it's like, guys, your response to her was bad and you need to be called out on it. Anyway, I don't know about you guys, but I think that episode is very good. Obviously, you've got another theme of the townspeople ostracizing somebody, turning their back against them, and then they are hypocrites in that way. You see something similar in Vendetta in previous and future episodes. They judge, but they are no better than the people that they judge. They're hypocrites in a lot of ways. So people of Virginia City are just not nice people. Gosh, nothing but praise for Jack Lord. I mean, his star power is on display here. He owns every single scene that he's in. He's charismatic. He's a very fascinating actor. He makes you hang on to every line of dialogue that he delivers. Like, he makes you pay attention to him, which is so interesting. I don't think you can say that about every actor. I think even in his early career, he just gives such strong leading man vibes. And I think that translated really well into the character of Steve McGarrett on Hawaii Five-0. It's just, he controls a room. Like, he walks in and you're like, I'm paying attention now. He's also just such an easygoing actor. I mentioned this. It feels like when you watch him, he's just like so effortless. And he reminds me of Pernell Roberts in that way. But he's a very, very easygoing actor. And it makes him so much fun to watch. Like, nothing feels forced with him. But obviously, I'm like a huge Jack Lord fan. So I'm going to have nothing but praise for the guy. Susan Oliver's great, too. She played a very sympathetic character. You feel so bad for her because Leta is very innocent in all of this. She was just caught in the crossfire between her bad boy boyfriend and her family just being a family of outlaws. And you feel really, really sorry for her. I did like how she was written. She's very sweet, naive, but she can handle herself. You can understand her point of view, why she feels so angrily. Like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, Jack and Susan really carried this episode. They were treated more like main characters rather than side characters, and I thought that was actually a really fascinating choice. They weren't treated as supporting, and I think that they were more of main characters than the actual Cartwrights in this story, with maybe the exception of Ben and a little bit of Haas. But I did like that. Favorite scenes, literally any moment with Jack Lord. He's great. Just what an acting prowess. What an actor. He is so awesome. Again, guys, I gotta tell you, if you have not watched the original Hawaii Five-0, you need to watch it. It is such a great show. And one of the reasons the show is so great is just Jack Lord is such a great actor. He is so good. I have never seen an actor before where I'm just like, it doesn't even come off like acting. Like, he just is. Can't recommend Hawaii Five-0 enough. He's amazing. I think that this is a very well-paced episode. I think it's very enjoyable. I think the plot is quite engaging. My only criticism is that I felt like it could have gone on longer. I feel like they needed to tie it a bit more together. It just felt like they were like, okay, it's done. Which, again, is kind of a common theme among these old shows. Like, they cut it off when they're finished. They're like, we don't really have any more to say. But I do feel like they needed to tie it together a little bit better. But that's about my only qualm. You guys, what a fun episode today. I have watched James MacArthur, who plays Danny on Hawaii Five-0. I have watched his Bonanza episode. But he wasn't really in his Bonanza episode. Like, he had a very minor role in the Bonanza episode that he was in, but I watched it just because I wanted to see him because I think he's such a little cutie. But it's cool knowing those actors appeared on Bonanza before really taking off with Hawaii Five-0. But I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say on this episode. Please drop a comment on YouTube or on my Instagram, or you can send me an email with any of these thoughts. What did you think of Jack Lord? Have you guys seen Hawaii Five-0? Do you have a frame of reference for Jack Lord's work? If so, what was it like for you to see him in this Bonanza episode? What did you think of this story? What did you think of Susan Oliver? How does this episode compare to Vendetta, given that Ben was kind of in a similar situation as Leta, although it wasn't the exact same? Please let me know any and all thoughts. You can email me at yeehawbonanzapod@gmail.com if you want to have your thoughts read on the show, or you can drop a comment on my YouTube. I cannot wait to hear what you guys think of this one. Thank you for dealing with my fangirling. I sincerely hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I can't wait to see you guys when we watch. I didn't take notes on that. Let me see. What's after the Outcast? Ooh, it's a house divided. This is where we pit Joe and Adam against each other. This is actually this episode. This episode's like kind of soap opera-y. That'll be enjoyable. I love the episodes that are on the Joe and Adam dynamic. That's one of the most fun dynamics for me in Bonanza. But I am so excited to hear your thoughts, guys. Thank you for checking out today's show, and I will see you in the next episode where we watch A House Divided. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you soon.